Hi, I'm Cody DePablo.
And I'm Michael Weatherly.
And this is Off Duty. We're talking about Season 3, Episode 11, Model Behavior.
Cody, why don't you tell us about the guest this week?
Joe Spano, who you likely know as FBI Special Agent Tobias Fornell. Welcome to Off Duty. Welcome to Off Duty, an NCIS rewatch podcast. This week on the show, we're talking Season 3, Episode 11, Model Behavior. 3 supermodels take part in a reality TV show aboard the Marine Corps base at Quantico. One of them disappears, but shows up dead on a fence. The NCIS investigates. For context, I love that. Just like...
It's so good for context.
I love it.
Just so we know where we are.
Yeah.
What happened when this show aired? The day
By the way,
this show aired.
November 29th, 2005, one of my favorite years ever. Surgeons in France carried out the first human face transplant. By the way, do you remember where that whole thing came from?
The face transplant?
Well, it became kind of a big deal because of, if I'm not mistaken, a woman called Chandra Nash. Remember the monkey accident? There was a woman in the East Coast that went into a house and
a monkey attacked her?
Monkey attacked her and it was like
ate
this
her face, so she got a face transplant?
No, it was a horrible, horrible thing.
I thought you were going to say the John Travolta movie with Nicolas Cage.
Face Off? No.
I didn't know where you were going. Different. To be quite honest, of course, I went to a movie reference and you went to a tragedy.
Oh, God.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Proposed internet domain XXX for pornography was dropped shortly before the domain was set to receive approval. I wonder why. About 4,000 military history enthusiasts from 23 countries gathered in the Czech Republic to reenact the epic battle of Austerlitz between the First French Empire and the Austrian Empire and Imperial Russia.
I feel like that was a long time ago.
You're like, well, we don't need to reenact that. And the episode today. Do you
Can I read the episode synopsis?
Yeah, please do.
Because this one... I'm really gonna, I kind of, and then you can read it afterwards. So we'll have a little competition.
Oh, good. I love it.
Okay, ready? I'm going to use my
competition,
announcer voice. I'm going to bring this in.
Go.
A supermodel is found dead after having overdosed on PCP at a Marine base where the reality TV show in which she was participating was being filmed. Her ex-boyfriend is also found dead in a motel nearby, having overdosed on heroin, leading the team to believe that their deaths may have been related to their relationship.
Wow.
On Off Duty.
You did it.
I did it, kids.
There's no need for me to do it again.
Okay.
Or ever.
Can I just also say that Joe Spano is our special guest. He's not in the episode synopsis because he's not in this episode. But it turns out it was his favorite one of the whole series.
Oh, come on. That's so not true. It was not his favorite episode.
You liked the one with Bootcamp Babes? Do tell. Can I just also say about this model behavior episode? While I felt that it was not the performance of a lifetime from Anthony Donoso. Okay, it was Michael Weatherly performing. I can't blame Donoso.
But I think we both got to the same conclusion. It wasn't our favorite episode.
But I don't want to blame the episode. I'm going to lay that at my own, a partial blame as to, because, there were so many funny moments. I really see that, Jimmy Palmer shining. I see David McCallum.
Oh my God, David McCallum was so good.
Pitch perfect. And the Probalicious.
Limelight, that's that club in Chelsea.
Yeah, you've been?
Actually, no, I saw it on Wild On.
It's so proby-tastic in this one because
proby-tastic. That's like a new thing.
He doesn't overcook the I'm nervous in front of the supermodels. He plays frankly a lot smarter beats than I made the really easy choices as an actor. I was having fun, like you said, it was kind of like eating candy the whole time, and I was just like, ho, boot camp babes, and I'm just gonna, but I stayed in the shallow part of the puddle, and I didn't have enough splashy splash. And let's talk a little bit about your hair in the episode, can we?
Anything else we can help you with? Like maybe some hair tips for your girlfriend here?
No, I think that about covers it.
It's one of my favorite subjects.
I'm shifting
yes,
gears.
Please.
I noticed a little bit of a comb over happening.
Well, it wasn't quite a comb over as much as it was like hair shifting.
Hair shifting.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It's
It
like
was a little
shape-shifting.
wilder. Do you remember shooting that episode? Or do you remember your parents coming to visit out there?
I do remember that.
We went to a restaurant, as I recall, out there.
We did?
No, that's my
I
memory.
think you invented that.
No, I don't think I did, but you can ask your mom.
Was it my mom?
Your mom and your dad.
Oh, yes.
This is 2005
Yes.
in the Wayback Machine. All right. Talk to me about, okay, do you think any of the models surprised you with their acting skills? This is one of the topics.
Yeah.
One of the questions.
I mean, there was a real model there, like a big time model.
Cameras are off, Natalie. You can stop pretending you cared about her.
You didn't get along.
We're supermodels, honey. We don't have to get along.
Minnie.
I believed her.
Not only did I believe her, but she was also
And
surprisingly
she
very-
worked a lot after that. I think we were one of her first 5 shows or something that she did.
She was
But
really
then
good.
she went on to work and have a great time. So here's the thing. Do you remember where you shot it? Where was the base?
San Pedro.
You are right.
I have an incredible memory.
How do you remember that?
I had to drive there.
That's why. That's why.
We all did.
Yeah, we did. That's it.
And also, it was one of my favorite locations because I like being close to the water.
Yes.
And so, it was just fun to get away from it all and feel like you were away from Santa Clarita and you were, by the water.
Okay.
Even though it was incredibly, what a weird place.
Weird place,
It's a weird
beautiful,
place.
strange.
Strange, yeah.
And Leon Carroll loved it because it was like 2 seconds from his house and his wife would come over and visit. She's so hilarious.
Oh my
and
God,
funny.
she was the best.
Okay, so this is a funny
Jackie.
question. Okay, because in the story, the dad he doesn't like that his daughter is going to marry a Marine.
You killed your own daughter. It was an accident. What was I supposed to do? She was going to throw her life away, be some jarhead's housewife.
Okay, so your child is going to get married and you find out that the person they're marrying has an occupation you don't like. What would that occupation be?
Oh God, I wouldn't even know where
Name,
to start.
just to think of one.
I can't.
Porn star.
I've never.
What about a porn star?
Oh God, no. I mean, no, probably,
Like
definitely no.
Okay, so that's one that you wouldn't approve
Sure,
of.
I just never thought of it.
Okay, model behavior. Out of scale 1 to 10, I know I told you about this blog where they rate it in Jimmy Palmer's. Let's find our own off-duty rating system.
Okay,
What should we give them?
we'll give him a hamster 5.
Hamsters. Hamster 5s. So should we go 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 of 100?
1 to 10.
Should we go Rotten Tomatoes on the hamsters? 1 to 10.
Okay.
Okay.
1 to 10.
Model behavior.
Definitely a hamster 4 for me.
Hamster 4.
Hamster 4, hamster 5.
I'm going hamster 6.
Wow, I thought you agreed that it was a 5.
I did. It was a 5 in the Palmers, but in hamsters, I'm giving it a 6 because I realized that your parents came to visit the set on that one, and it makes it a little more important.
Well, we're not talking about whose parents were there. We're talking about.
I'm grading the whole experience.
Oh well, then if the experience is the experience, then I
okay.
could say it's a 10
Next.
because the experience is always great, or it was great.
Okay. Kill area 1 and 2. How many chipmunks do you give it?
A 10.
10 across the board.
Yeah, I think for 1 and 2 for me.
Chipmunks. 10 chipmunks. Okay.
10 hamster.
Boy, that shows a lot of, you can really fall apart in season 3. You can go from a 10 to
Well,
a 4.
it's just that I think it's good to, I think it's good to love something a lot and then to kind of,
What do you think about making those models do pull-ups during boot camp babes? That didn't seem fair to me.
Let's go, move! Come on, show me what you're made of. Come on now.
I loved it because they were just so like, I can't do this.
This is before before social media really kicked off and that whole thing.
But it was the beginning.
it's a
Remember, it
time
was
capsule.
the beginning of the reality TV world.
You talk about The Simple Life with Paris Hilton and Nicole
Right.
Richie. We're making references. In a way, it's a perfect time capsule I guess there's a lot of time capsules on our show.
Yes.
But this one really highlights like a moment in American television that maybe
It changed everything.
maybe not our proudest moment.
No, it changed everything.
But all the YouTubers and all the stuff now that you see, people, we're all living in a house with 500 balloons. How long can we last? And it's like, there's this guy, you'll start to get this as soon as your son gets a remote control in his little paws. Mr. Beast. Have you heard
I've
about
heard of Mr. Beast? Yes.
Mr. Beast doesn't happen without Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie living on a farm.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. It's the beginning and the end.
When do you think these podcasts are going to go out of style?
I think it's just the beginning.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
I think people care.
Your jurisdiction doesn't supersede the FBI. With us joined at the hip, all they can do is watch and bitch. How's your butt?
It's still bouncing on the beltway.
Look, if it was up to me, I'd put a round through his forehead. It's not. My second biggest mistake, Jethro? That's very dramatic. What was the first?
When you married my second wife.
You ever go to the movies?
I built a boat.
We really screwed this one up.
Oh, you think, Tobias?
Oh, no, I'm hurt. You're saying you don't trust me?
He's making jokes.
You've never worked with NCIS before, have you, Agent Sachs? People say we're bastards?
Only because they know us.
Hello, Joe.
Hello. That opening thing in that shot, in that episode is quite shocking.
It is shocking.
It is shocking. But
Before we do anything, can I do something here? I brought some things for you. I wanted not to be just
did you say something, Tim?
I did not say anything.
This is so weird because I just saw Mary Oliver. This is one of, by the way, The Wild Geese is one of my favorite poems.
And on set, she pulled me over one day.
No,
and
this is after I left.
Mary Olivered me.
Yeah. And I said, you do not have to be good. And then one of my favorite lines is, let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And that to me was essential in so many ways, you know? So this is like so weird that you're coming with this book.
Wait, okay, so first of all, I noticed a trend in the whole season 3. There's like Bootcamp babes. There's Voyeur's Web with the website. There is a kind of sauciness to the
I
whole
think it was
season.
the writers in the age group.
I don't even remember them.
We had young writers.
Yeah.
We had one called Bikini Wax in season 2.
Oh my God, yes.
But there were younger-ish writers who were kind of the voice of a lot of these scripts. We had David North, we had Steve Binder, we had Jesse Stern, we had these young guys, and coming up with crazy things that, frankly, in retrospect, wildly inappropriate, wouldn't fly today. But boot camp babes, real models.
Yes, real models. The lead girl was named Minnie, right? Minnie.
Amazing, Swedish.
Yeah.
What was it?
So
What was the
cool.
title, though? It wasn't Beach Camp. What was
No, it was model
Boot Camp.
model behavior.
Model behavior.
But Boot Camp Babes was the name of the reality show they were doing
Yes.
inside the
right.
where the models were in the Marine Corps. And for some reason, Jenny Shepard with her new haircut decided.
Oh, by the way, it's very funny because she did cut it, and we made a reference to the haircut looking very elfy.
She went with the elf cut.
It's called the pixie.
I think she looks terrific.
Which I have to say was very unfair because she looks really beautiful.
Nobody's going to say a bad word about Lauren Holly. But
no, but especially the haircut, like it suited her.
It was a good
haircut.
haircut.
It looked really good on her.
But
like,
when
she looked
Director
really
Shepard
beautiful.
was defending the idea that the Marine Corps should do a reality TV show about models doing boot camp as a recruitment device, it jumped many sharks way before.
Yeah, and the relationship between the head of the NCIS and and Mark was like, wow, this is okay. But it was entertaining. It was entertaining.
The thing that the show had was that it was always entertaining. But it's funny because you were Googling that episode and you got how many Jimmy Palmers?
It only got 5 Jimmy Palmers. There's a website that grades every episode. Somebody did 365 days, 365 episodes, and it's some blog. And so each day they watched one and reviewed it. And they eviscerate a couple of them, but you
this
get
one
graded
got,
on
I
Jimmy
think, what,
Palmer's.
4 or 5?
It got 5 Jimmy Palmers out of 10, and it's a little picture of Jimmy going.
So it was actually graded by a super fan, and we have to agree. You were reading the entire thing, and you were saying, "I really like this guy because he's totally right. He's honest, and he's right on it." You know?
So, high or low brow, the bar is not really set anywhere for that. It's kind of like playing tennis without a net. when you're watching an episode of NCIS, because the net is kind of arbitrary, because you're just going to enjoy watching the thing unfold, you know?
Yeah, you
just want to watch everybody run around.
Yeah.
And
you kind of want to watch your family do the thing they do, you know?
Or watch models in boot camp.
On that first shot, as I said before, it was just like, what?
But I didn't understand. The first shot, you see her in bed, and then they come back and she's not in bed.
No, you start with the first crotch in the first bed,
right?
And there, you know, the blanket is like right below.
Well, it was warm.
No, they're wearing underwear. I mean, they're wearing panties. I mean,
yes, they are. They're wearing panties. But that's what you see, and that's the shot.
Sure.
To the second.
I don't remember this part.
Second crotch.
Well, you guys seem
to
to
the
have
empty bed, which
no, because by the way, for me, it was just like, oh, okay, that's just another episode. But it's funny that you guys bring it up because it was kind of a.
But your relationship to them was really wonderful.
Oh yeah, it was all about like I hate models.
You can remember anything else that might help? Please give us a call.
It's called a business card. Maybe you can have one of the Marines read it to you.
You know, this whole thing, and I was just like, what? And I remember shooting that episode and really liking the girls I was working with.
I'm sure
the girl who played Minnie was not only talented, but God, she was so gorgeous.
Oh, that's her
you know?
name in real life.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not the girl playing Minnie. Minnie, the actress who was hired to play the lead model. You know, she was just she was fun. She was, and funny enough, in real life at the time, she lived very close to me, just a couple of houses down.
Really?
So every once in a while, she used to like walk her dog and stuff, and she was just pleasant and so beautiful and like the real deal. Like she was on not on the cover, but I think Michael and we were talking about it. She had just done like a heavy duty campaign for Louis Vuitton, you know, where she was basically like pretty much, I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, I don't know if she was naked with a bag on or maybe just, but it was like a massive thing. And she was like, you know, on Sunset Boulevard on this massive Louis Vuitton. So she was like a real deal model. It wasn't like, oh, you know, like let's cast people that look like a model. She was a real deal thing.
I think that and maybe one of the reasons that I had my reaction to it is that I think I did drop the ball character-wise on that one. I think
You fell into the trap?
The danger of DiNozzo is that you just stay in this sort of shallow, he's not like a good agent. He's kind of just, you know, googly-eyed because, you know, there's like pretty girls around or something.
It's not for sale.
It's free. Just like love. You know, I'm a big fan of the show. You guys are really beautiful and great. And the show.
And I feel like I didn't do maybe I'm just being self-critical. Maybe the episode
I think you are.
I think you are, because I think, by the way, most people, that's what they want to see when they see DiNozzo. I mean,
I know, but there was just a little bit, plenty of it is good. I think I may have used that color a little too much in the episode. I think I'm so
But by the way, you liked that candy. The entire episode had that candy. You know what I mean? So it would be very tough for you not to respond to the candy.
You know, it's comedy, you know, it's not that, you know, nobody's, I don't think, judging you on, you know, the depth of your, in that show.
No, and it's not about the depth. It's just sometimes you just throwing a couple other shades in there. When I look back at it, that's the hard part about watching yourself from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was so glad we weren't doing one that I was in. It would have been terrible.
I thought that was your specific request. I'll come and do the podcast,
like,
but I will not watch one of my own shows.
You're like, I'll only come in for model behavior, specifically.
And did you know that there was a Tobias? I can't remember in Yankee White if he was Tobias or were you just Fornell? I'm wondering if Tobias came later or if, because Belisario loved creating names.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tobias
Leroy
is
Jethro Gibbs.
But it's such a good name, Tobias.
Yeah. I bet that was there from the beginning. And you are kind of a Tobias.
Yeah, or I became one.
Yeah.
I became a Tobias.
Okay, you're pregnant with a thought. Please
I'm
share.
pregnant with a thought. San Francisco, 1967.
There was one, yes.
Were you in San Francisco in the 60s?
Yeah, I was in Berkeley. Actually, I graduated from UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley.
Your dad was in World War II?
Yeah.
Because you were born right after the war.
I was.
And
wow.
Yeah, and so you would have been living with somebody who he saw action, as it were, like battle?
He was a co-pilot, so we was in a plane all
So
the time.
you and
I think
Harmon had that in common, where you had pilots for fathers.
You probably talked about that a lot, I imagine.
Sure we did.
You know Harmon, he's such a motor mouth. We remember his nickname?
No, but that's one.
Do you remember his nickname on the show? Gibbs' nickname?
No.
Functional mute.
Oh, functional mute. Yeah. But I feel like when you get Harmon going, he does talk about things, especially that. Yeah. He loves talking about them.
Until I walk into the room and then it's...
Well, but that's a separate issue.
Listen, there's a lot of people that clam up. But here's what's so interesting about this, because we've been really talking about journeys and paths and how choosing this path, which you did to great success and to much acclaim, right?
That's why I always liked you.
Because I was a big Hill Street Blues guy.
That's right.
But was there an energy in the 60s in the Bay Area that was in any way part of that seeding of the Joe Spano that we came to know and love?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you were freer to do that kind of thing. I didn't know theater. I didn't know plays. I didn't know what to do, but I did know that I wanted to say something if I was going to say it out loud in front of people, something that meant something that was deep.
And so trying to say something is interesting, because some people say something so that they can be heard, or that they can project something so that they can bask in the reflected glory of whatever it is that they've projected out there. You know, there's a lot of that, which is understandable in the crazy world that we live in. But there's this other side, which is I want to communicate something that's personal, that only I really, truly understand because it's essential to who I am. And do you feel that that is kind of, because I've always felt you were an incredibly spiritual, grounded human. And I see that when I watch you work, because you have this humor, this beautiful humor, but it's never fake or false or forced or for somebody else's benefit.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're very funny.
Thank you.
But you're sort of funny the way the Dalai Lama can be funny.
Well, you are wearing a Dalai Lama scarf.
There you go. It is. I do love, there's also a rabbinical look to it. And,
I'm very, I clocked it immediately.
I feel like that's something that every time I got to work with you or talked with you, I always saw that playfulness that reminded me of, what was his name? George McGovern? Or no, that was a senator. Guy ran for president. Tom Hanks, funnily enough, said that you were very important to him. I'm
glad you got there, because I was going to tell you the story.
I know. That's why I did this circuitous thing. I talk way too weirdly anyway.
Well,
but tell me the Tom Hanks connection. I know you Apollo 13.
When we were doing Apollo 13, I was walking across the lot, and this guy in this black limousine with a New York accent said, Tom has got to get his... I said, what? And he said, Tom, he might go grab you. I said, what is it? Tom wants to talk to you back over here. So I went in there, and they were in this big trailer, closed trailer, that they were doing exercises because they were going to go into the Vomit Comet.
Right, yeah, to the zero gravity thing.
Yeah, and there he was sitting on. He said, I just wanted to tell you that, okay, he overspoke, okay? He said, you're the reason I'm an actor, because he used to go to a college in Oakland. I can't remember the name of the college, but they would come to the Berkeley Rep. And they would come and see what we were doing over there. And
you're kidding me. So he saw you like in a stage production?
Yeah, I was at this theater for 10 years before I came
like
down.
Dracula.
I played Dracula. I played
all kinds of things.
I was
looking through your CV, and I'm like, Joe Spano.
But yeah. So he was great, but he's also such a generous person.
But isn't it funny?
Yes, I hear he's a really terrific person.
But the people that
we actually met him at a party, Shelley. We went to a party and he was there, and we said hi to him. And
I know.
And you were like, oh my God. Yeah, he was, of course, very
Well, he's
nervous.
very tall. Well, you are tall, too, as a matter of fact.
No, but it's not nerves
as
because of height, by the way. It's just he gets nervous around people that he admires.
Yes. Well, back then I did. I think I'd be a little more calm now.
You know so much. You do know so much, and you have a real feeling of the history of acting and movies, and you're so passionate about it that I think when you'll point out people that I don't even know, and you will know their history.
Oh, he's a total buff. Yeah, he loves it.
So I know that to love it so much, and much deeply love it. And it means so much to the story of yourself, I think, because we all have these stories.
Sure.
I thought about that coming here, is, the stories we think about ourselves.
The myth you tell yourself.
Yeah. Well, I went deep into you guys. You were so important to the picture of what the show was to me, and going in every day. I mean, not that I didn't do that many shows, but
55 is a lot.
Have I done 55?
55 is a lot.
Okay.
Your mailbox every month should reflect that the checks that come in. It should be something.
It should be something substantial, by the way.
They're getting farther and farther away. Although I just heard yesterday that I'm going to do one this year. So
let's, for a second, get NCIS centric if we can.
Sure.
I and Cody and I both, we could stay in the deep end of the swimming pool with our goggles on happily, or even in an isolation tank in salt water.
And we can discuss this kind of stuff forever.
We could go forever and talk about modes of alienation, but I don't even know what that means. I think it's a Woody Allen reference. So NCIS, when you'd done JAG, and you'd worked with Don in the past in other capacities a little bit, right?
No, JAG was the only one I ever did.
Oh, JAG, you didn't do the judge one?
No.
How many episodes of JAG, by the way?
One.
Just the one?
Just one?
Yeah.
So how did you get to NCIS?
Well, I'm really not sure. I had known Mark before. And I think
was it a Mark
liked...
connection? Was it Mark like, hey, I think we should bring Joe Spano?
I have no idea. I never asked him.
This is Don Belisario directing the first episode of the series.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. Yes, of course.
Yankee White,
Got
episode
so
1.
That's
on
a big
Air
deal.
Force One.
Yeah.
And there's a dead body on Air Force One. FBI has control of the plane. NCIS, in the guise of Ducky, comes on as the county coroner, but he never lies and says he's the county coroner, but he pretends that he is. So we get FBI off the plane. Sasha is Secret Service with the president. Harmon tells me to go tell the pilot we're taking off. We pull it up. We wave goodbye to you, and we take off with the body.
And I'm on the rack.
This show on the road. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. We overbooked the flight. What the hell are you doing? What's going on? Stop!
And it was a hell of a shoot, and it had been delayed a little bit, and it was the summer of 2003, and I remember the first day because I was so nervous. I was as nervous as like a bag of kittens. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Bag of kittens are always very nervous.
Well, they're nervous because they're about to be drowned.
I've seen so many.
They're about to be drowned is what I meant.
Oh, God, that went dark.
Well, that's what happens. But I was a huge Hill Street fan and have seen you in movies and all these other things. But I just remember watching you walk around, and you had a kind of Bogart trench coat on, and you were kind of walking around the set, very assured, very confident, very FBI. And I was looking at Harmon, and he was kind of doing his thing. And David McCallum from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is doing his thing. And I'm looking around like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, how did I get here? I had that imposter syndrome.
He's always had that syndrome.
It's an actor thing. I'm sure you've had it.
Yeah, I'm getting here today, knowing that I don't have anything to say.
You're like,
and
I will never.
Nothing will come into my head. And we'll sit here.
So you do an ensemble drama that wins a kabillion Emmys, like Hill Street Blues. You go through, and we talked a little bit about this stuff back in the day, but and Harmon's doing St. Elsewhere roughly the same time.
Is that how did you guys meet?
Yeah, probably
That's
on that lot.
NBC.
It was Mary Tyler Moore at that point.
Did you guys have like a friendship, or was it more like, hey, Joe, hey, Mark?
No, actually, I think we went to these
the lunch
athletic things. Something of the stars.
Howard Cosell. Howard Cosell would remember he would be the host. I'm here with Joe Spano.
Yeah, I think we were in a car once, but we know each other. And when his father died, I sent him an email, or however people connected with each other, because I knew that was such a big thing for him.
Yeah.
And then I was in one of his other shows, and I think that was probably because of him.
Reasonable Doubts.
Oh yeah, Maplin.
Yeah, that was Reasonable Doubts.
That's Reasonable Doubts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
law show.
We had some crossing over, but not socially or anything like that.
Do you have any recollection of bringing Tobias to life, like saying this is who Fornell is, or did you think it's a one-off FBI guy? I'll just do this and like.
Did you ever think that it would go 55 episodes in?
No way.
What's your process a little bit?
God, so I don't know. I do it all the same, I think. I think that the script tells me what they need, what the story needs, and then I do what I think tells that story the best and also makes me feel like a human being, and that I can carry out as a human being.
Right.
What do you think is the key to the success of the show?
I think in a way, just like Hill Street Blues was, it's about the people.
Yes.
It's not about, although it's obviously more of a show about something happening and coming to a closure.
Procedural.
Procedural. Right. It's there, but it's sort of like that's the roller coaster you're on. What you're really interested in is the people, their personalities, the way they form a working unit. I was thinking in the show that we ostensibly are talking about, which we're not really talking about, there's a shot in which you lean into Gibbs on his desk and there's a light there's a light there and you say one line.
Our director has friends in high places, yes?
Something I can do for you, Officer David.
Abby needs to see you.
I was not sure exactly what it was about, but it was your presence and it was the emotion of what you were saying to him, which made him do something, of course. That was really unique. And the ability to do that, and I think you were fairly new to the show there.
Mm-hmm. It was my first season, yeah.
Yeah, third season.
Yeah.
And it was so different the way you reacted to people. And so I'm getting to that. So everybody is who they are there. And they're clear. And people can see them and what they're doing, even when they're hiding stuff. So it's the importance of the people who are creating these characters who are complex but can be seen by people because they're open. Mm-hmm. They are open with themselves, and they're open when they're making a line. They're open when they're making a joke, which in that episode you make a lot of, and they're always funny.
She's pretty. I like to think that I'm the Michael Douglas to his Carl Malden on the streets of D.C.
Thank you, everybody.
It's great.
I have to thank you for something because you were one of the few people when I left. And, you know, whatever the reasons were, they were my own personal reasons. You never cared what those reasons were. You were the only person that came up to me and you gave me a huge hug and you said, congratulations. And I will never forget that because that was so beautiful. And you had no idea what I had gone through in order to make that decision. And it was a really beautiful moment. And I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That was just such a generous thing to do to another actor, to free them and to support them because ultimately that was a really tough time for me. And you were the only person that never questioned. You came at me with such an open heart. You were not a part of the everyday family, but you came to me and you just gave me this massive hug. And the first words that came out of you were, congratulations. And I'll never forget that. Like, as a human being, the gift you gave me was so massive. I don't think you understand what it was like to be held in that way, in that moment, even if it was an instant, because I think it was just us reading the episode before we even shot the episode, which was my last episode there. And I had no idea it was going to be my last episode. Mm-hmm. And it was just a remarkable thing to be given as I was leaving. And it was a beautiful thing. I don't even think you are aware of what you gave me, but I have to acknowledge it because I have you here and I haven't seen you since.
I had a sense that that's what you needed. And I had a sense that was the truth. And that you weren't going to be accepted as being the truth, or anybody there, because everybody else has different ambitions
Sure. And by the way, people, as you said, people see what they want to see and people have their own stories, you know, and sometimes when you don't have the facts and you can't step into people's shoes, it's impossible for you to see the reality that they're going through or to perceive things that they're feeling. And I felt that you completely overstepped that and you got ahead of that and you said, oh, well, who cares about that? let's look at what she just did. And she's about to enter another chapter. And the idea of entering another chapter deserves a congratulations, you know? And I thought, first of all, I thought, well, what a great guy. And then I thought, what a great dad to have. Well, because I know your kids, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought, what a wonderful father to have that awareness, to be able to free somebody from duty or anything that's perceived as such.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Of course.
I mean, thing about you, it wasn't also, it was structured that way and done really well. You probably remember this. One day, one of the other actors, who I won't name, said, Michael told me to come talk to you. He was really upset about thinking about leaving the show. And, as we all do, we didn't have enough to do, and our characters weren't going in the right place, and I could do better somewhere. And you sent them to me, which I thought was great.
Sent them to Yoda.
So thank you for that. I mean, it's really wonderful to be sent to.
Well, the context.
You have a really good instinct with that. You kind of know where to go.
Well, we had conversations because there's a thing that happens. You're so thrilled when a show does hit, when you feel that, like, and NCIS, as you know, was never on the Emmy train or the cover of magazines train.
It was not that show.
It wasn't.
No,
that
it was
show.
Never that show.
But we got a huge audience, and everyone will come up to me in a men's room in the middle of the Chicago airport and want to talk to me about episode, model behavior. Yeah. Remember that one when they were the Bootcamp babes?
Well, that first shot is like, wow, that's really on the edge of...
That's pushing, but you have this moment where you, and also as an actor, as an itinerant, as somebody who worries, hand to mouth, month to month, suddenly you have this job in television where you're going to be able to pay your rent. And then after you do a couple seasons, you're like, am I going to be able to buy a house? Like,
every single year you're like, wait, what? It's such a treat.
To not have like a 10-year-old used car with like 30 outstanding tickets on it, to suddenly be, and then how quickly that changes into entitlement or,
it can happen.
It can happen.
It can happen.
And I think that
we were on a set where that wasn't tolerated.
But it's still,
and it always started with number one. And I'll give Harmon, you have to give Harmon a little nod on that, because he kept us all of us, he kept us on check.
Yeah.
Gravity boots. That's such a great one. And you came up with that. Gravity boots. You know that one, right?
Because Harmon could walk on water, on air. He could do, because when you're the king, you don't have to wear any clothes, and everyone's like, we love your clothes. It's like, there's no truth in your world.
Yeah.
There's no gravity. And you
came up with that, right? The gravity boot?
But Harmon put on these gravity boots where he made himself walk on the ground. He told me once, he was like, I had just bought a house, and he said, make sure you take your own trash out. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, do your own work. Do your, And
I mean, he taught me a lot about that stuff, like, pay your own bills and do this and do that. And that's the one thing that I always think about whenever young actors come up to me and they ask me questions. I always think that every single young actor should have like a lesson in accounting and money, because if and when you book a job and you're fortunate enough to have a steady paycheck, I would say 98% of young people don't know what the hell to do with money. Yeah. They'll spend it. They'll get the greatest wardrobe. They'll buy the flashiest car. And I fortunately came from a very conservative background. So I would stash all my paychecks away. And
under your bed.
Exactly, yes.
She had shoe boxes full of...
No, and it's something that I feel like no one really talks about today. And every single time I meet a young actor, and I think it's because I used to talk about these things with Harmon all the time. He was like, make sure that, he just kind of kept it so real. And in that way, I always say he was very important to me.
And for me too. And one of the things I always remember about him was that the way he treated guest stars.
Always.
Or anybody.
We were just saying how he treated kids particularly, Yeah. He was so protective of kids and so good with guest stars. Remember can I get you a coffee? Can I get you a tea? Well, like he would take that to the next level.
Or he was, if somebody presumed that there would be somebody to fetch.
Oh, yeah, that'd be...
And if they turned to Mark and said, who do I ask to get a cup of water? And he'd say, you'd like a cup of water? And they'd say yes. So he would walk off, and then he'd come back with a cup of water and make them feel lousy.
Yeah.
Because
Mark Harmon,
Mark Harmon's your production assistant.
By the way, so clever.
Yes.
So clever,
and
because there was nothing about it that would, I'm going to teach you. You know what I mean? It was just like,
there was a little...
Yes, but it wasn't, but it wasn't like...
He was teaching lessons all the time.
He was, but what I'm trying to say, there wasn't like a mean bone about it. It was just...
And he didn't go to anybody else.
No, that's what I mean.
But if you went one step beyond that, he would cut you off and say, it's that way. That's the next level, Harmon.
Yeah.
Like, if you're late 2 days in a row, then you might find yourself in under the wrathful gaze of those beautiful blue eyes. Beautiful eyes. So I have a Fornell question.
Yes, and then I have another question. You go first.
Fornell. You is a Fornell based?
Yes.
Okay, you go Fornell.
Well, actually, no. It's a Joe Spano question.
Okay.
I may have to say something if you guys aren't going to.
I want it. Okay, you say something.
You're one.
So 2 weeks ago, I go into the Trader Joe's near my house, and the guy at the door, he said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Spano." That sounds great. And then he said, "I got to ask you something. I did some acting." He said, "Was it your idea to pronounce his name Donozzo, or did they tell you to do that?" I said, "No, I came up with that."
That's such a cool... And was it a flaw or was it a total conscious decision?
Correct
pronunciation.
No, I get it. But because, everyone else calls him Donozzo, so you could have just assumed it was, Well,
it was a punch at everybody else, too. A little,
Yeah.
You're saying it wrong.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to say it correctly, and you guys are not.
Exactly.
But it's also a reverse punch, which is like, I'm going to say it wrong. Because that's the level of, that's also like it's a clever ploy. I mean, when Suzanne McRobert would correct, she is the script supervisor on NCIS, everyone at home.
By the way, has been there from day one. Like, it's crazy.
An amazing lady.
And every single episode, every single day, every single hour. Like, that's the toughest
as
job.
Athena. But she would come over to Mark and say, I think the pronunciation here is Ari. And we were doing Kill Ari.
Yeah.
And Mark would be like, when is Ari getting back here? He was Ari. And there was because Harmon made a choice that he wasn't going to call him Ari. He was not, because he didn't like, that character killed Kate. Character did not deserve the respect of proper pronunciation.
Right.
Like, and Mark does think about that stuff in a, Mr. Gravity Boots has given some stuff some thought. But as you were coming back, like, what is your memory of that, I guess, is my question.
As opposed to being a regular? Or
just as opposed to like the one-off or...
I thought it was great. I mean, it was just great.
Did you
ever want to become, for example, a regular?
No,
Never.
I didn't want to have to do what you guys were doing. Not so much the time, but what it does to you.
Right.
So you knew.
What it does to you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which we haven't talked about.
Yeah. No, I could see it. It's unspeakable, actually, because you're turned into something, and you have to be that to a certain extent, promoting the show, reacting to people who see you in a certain way. That's not really who you are, but you want to cater to it for your job and for them. I mean, but doing that over and over again, I think you lose track of who you are. Not that anybody knows who they are at all, but sometimes you have some leeway,
right,
to finding something new for yourself. But in that, it's always being pushed on and pushing back or not pushing back, and being crushed by it or changed by it.
All the while you're bypassing life, and
there's that too. Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, it's not like we weren't going through things. We just couldn't deal with those things.
Yeah, we weren't given an opportunity.
Well, you just didn't have the time, and that's just the reality.
And
so
it's the same
you ended up
episode
just
in
eating all of these emotions, and then what did you do? You just put them into the work because that's the only thing you could do. So inevitably at some point you start kind of like the engine, the car, and it's very funny because you called me at some point and you told me this incredible thing. I think I'm not sure what season it was, but and this, mind you, this may be like a very private thing, but I don't think I'm going to. Anyway.
There's nothing.
I can't wait.
No, he calls me up and he says, I had this awful dream. And I said, called it a nightmare. And he goes, and I said, what was it? And he goes, that I was driving down this highway and that the car started slowly falling apart. So the wheels would come off and then the door would come off and then everything would come off. And I ended up in the middle of the highway, no car. The car was completely shattered, and I was holding the steering wheel in my hand,
White knuckle.
Yeah, and I remember throughout our friendship and through the ups and downs of life and everything that would happen, and every once in a while, not all the time, but Michael would reach out or I would reach out to Michael, and I would always at the end of the conversation remind him of that dream. I would say, remember, don't be the guy holding the steering wheel. Whatever you do, protect the car. Protect the vehicle that's taking you there. And in many ways, it's you, right? I mean, you are the car. You are the thing that's getting you to the next destination. So
you lose the horizon a little bit. You lose that equanimity and that sense of balance, and because all of a sudden you're thinking, well, wait a minute, I can do that and I can do that. And why do I have to be here at 7:00? Yeah, I want to be here at 8:00. He doesn't have to get here until 8:00. Daniel J. Travante and Veronica Hamill don't have to pull it. You're like, I mean, I'm making that up, but I'm just saying it's the kind of thing that can infect a certain show. And to your point before, Harmon wouldn't stand for that kind of stuff.
But sets do become infected.
It kind of seeps into the everydayness. Can I ask if you remember standing in the rain and Mark Harmon sitting on a park bench?
If I ask you something, Tobias, you gonna lie to me?
Depends on the question.
What's Area Suarez's real mission here?
I'm gonna lie to you.
That's when I had a reel.
With the rain, right?
That was in the reel. That was a beautifully written scene.
And you give him the movie that he should watch.
This is Kilari.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just watched this, and we could not stop talking about how well written that episode was.
It really was.
It really was. Those two, Kilari 1 and Kilari 2. It was just beautifully written. And everything was so seamless, and the characters were so well defined. And that scene between you and Gibbs, it's so true. It's such a good scene.
And there's a dog over in the gazebo.
And we're in full light. It was a sunny day, but we had sprinklers going on.
But the great thing is it makes it look even more magical that you can see the sunlight, but it's like there's a rain cloud over Gibbs, almost like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Do you remember running in an episode of NCIS and then suddenly hearing something pop in your leg and you were not running anymore?
Yes, I do.
Talk a little bit.
I think that happened to all of us. Which
talk
is
a little bit about
just
running.
A generic question.
Talk a little bit about
actor.
running on camera when you're, it's like, because I think the thing I heard you say was, I keep forgetting I'm not 35.
Yeah, no, that's very painful. And then you still have more
running
to do.
Yes.
And you don't want to look, totally.
There was a grimace. On the Spano
inside and outside.
visage.
Yes, no, that happens. I don't.
You know
do
what's
that
one of
anymore.
my favorite Spano episodes? The episode with the wife, the ex-wife.
Oh yeah, all the
so
ex-wives,
good,
right?
Jethro, MTech. See if there's any new intel on Syria, North Korea, or Iran.
Did she just give us orders? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like turns out that you and Gibbs had a lot in common.
Yeah.
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 I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about, all of a sudden this background that you don't even know about as a character also comes into the script.
But when you got to see this really comedic part of your character, which was so good, and the And it's funny because to me it was very evident that you're the one that still had all the feelings and that Gibbs was completely resolved in his. And it was so cool because those were the choices you were making. It could have been very interesting to see that Gibbs had somehow been affected by this, but he was not. And you were the one who was still very much affected by this situation. And it was so much fun to see as an actor because you were both in a very sort of similar situation, but dealing with it in a very different way. And the conflict within you too, and how he was dealing with you and how he was dealing with her, it was just such a fun character building show. All right, so we're going to play a little reality TV quiz.
Oh, God. Come on.
So come on, you know you love your junk food.
Okay, let's do it.
So who was the first winner of American Idol? Come on, you know the...
I have no idea.
Oh.
I didn't either, by the way.
Catherine McPhee.
Oh, no.
Oliver Sacks.
Kelly Clarkson.
Is it somebody?
Kelly Clarkson.
Oh.
Who's like now, by the way, who's like now killing it with her talk show.
Oh,
yeah, and apparently she's doing really well. She went through a really tough time, that one. She'd be a fun one to have.
You got to know that the last time I really had to see a television show, it was Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh.
Good show.
Yeah.
It was a great show.
It was a good show. She was a good
philosophical
agent.
Sitting on the roof at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And we talk about...
All right, this is going to be a really kind of... It's probably my worst... The worst question you'll get. So which of these is not a real Kardashian sister? Sorry. Kim, Khaleesi, Kourtney, Khloe.
Khaleesi.
There you go!
Wow.
My daughter used to work for the youngest one.
Oh, okay. So we won't ask
You're 1 for 2. You're batting. You're batting 500.
What is the nickname of Nicole Polizzi, a star of MTV's Jersey Shore? Snoopy, Scooby, Snooky, or Susie Q?
Go for it.
Snooky.
Yes!
Oh,
did you know that, by the way, she was Chilean? She is Chilean?
I live on the East Coast.
Yes. Which of these is not a drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race? Valentina, Magical, Mr. Mistopheles, Bob and the Drag Queen, Trixie Mattel.
Trixie Mattel.
Trixie Mattel.
Come on, you guys. Magical Mr. Mistopheles.
I figured if I answered super confidently.
You may just get it right.
Yeah. No,
can you bluff in this game? I guess you can. There's just
and what is this? What is the theme song for the show? And this is a good one because we were all, I have no excuses for this one. For the show Cops. Remember the show Cops?
It's Bad Boys.
Bad Boys. Can we even sing it?
No.
Okay, so Bad Boys. There we go.
Did you just say that because you didn't want her to sing it?
No, because it's Spotify.
Oh.
That's what I
don't they own all the music?
Well, but you are the one that's always saying, don't sing it.
I know. I'm trained by network television because then they have to pay for the music. We are going to, unfortunately, close this out.
I know. This has been such a treat, Joe.
I know.
Oh, it has for me,
too.
And I was so scared of it.
Were you really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Are we scary?
Did it seem...
No, you're not scary.
The medium?
Not the medium itself. It's the difficulty in making things, thinking that you're going to say anything intelligent, but that you're not going to be present. It can be.
I have terrible news.
What?
You're actually asleep right now. You're about to wake up, and you're going to have to drive downtown and go to the Spotify studios. This was all
it's not
just a nightmare.
Dream. It's all just
it's
a
not
dream.
a
It's really a sweet dream.
Oh.
It was a beautiful thing having you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck
you
with
for coming
this.
back.
Ladies and
Thank
gentlemen,
Joe Spano.
I'm going to ask you a fan question. This is the time where we like to do the fan question. I'm going to ask you this one, and then you can ask me.
Okay.
Would you rather receive an Oscar for your work in an extraordinary film or a check for $10 million after taxes?
Wait, are you serious?
10 mil or an Oscar for a performance of a lifetime? I love that you have to think about it. It's good. It means it's a real question.
Did you make it up? Or
no, it's one of the fan questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, fans, by the way.
You know, the funny thing is, I think the one that would bring me the most happiness is probably the lifetime.
10 million.
No, the lifetime performance. You know, that being able to do something, not so much for the Oscar, even though that's an amazing thing, but I think the idea of tapping into something that where you experience yourself and you're proud of something that you do so much, and it's acknowledged. I think that would be very gratifying.
You know, if a fan is watching this and they're like, how do I get my question read? Do you know what they have to do?
What?
They have to send an email.
Oh.
Do you know where they send it?
No, but you do.
To, what's the name of our podcast? Off Duty
at Spotify.com. You see, I'm pretty good.
So if you have any email questions, offduty at Spotify.com, go for it. Let us know your thoughts. Here's another question for both of us. You obviously have amazing chemistry together.
Aww.
Very sweet.
It's all fake.
Who's an actor you haven't worked with, but who you think you'd also have great chemistry with?
You know, that's so, I mean.
Who do you think? Just watching them. You're like, me and Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, because you're watching an actor, right? You don't know who that person is.
So it's alchemy. You don't know what
Exactly. Maybe, by the way, you think they're kind of bland, like when they do interviews, and some people are very shy and they come across as one thing and then they're completely different.
I think I would have great chemistry with Denzel Washington.
You would? Why?
I don't know. I just get that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I like Denzel Washington a lot. When I saw Glory in the movie theater, I stayed and I watched it again. Matthew Broderick also terrific in that film. But Denzel, that I stayed and watched the very next. I used to do that in the theater if I really liked a movie. But that's what Glory just stuck in my head with that one.
Well, that was a terrific movie. Mm-hmm. I remember being in elementary school and we had these two wonderful, wonderful history teachers. And they wanted to teach us about the Civil War. And one of the main things they did was they played that movie as part of the curriculum to teach. And I just thought, isn't that amazing? Especially for me, of course, as an actor. I was like, wait, what? We get to watch a movie?
I think you'd have great chemistry with pretty much anybody.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think I'm just throwing that out there.
You're the best. I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. Let me just say, I wouldn't. I could only do this with you. I had to say it. So this is, by the way, one of our favorite moments. And this is definitely going to turn into a fan favorite. There you go. Gibbs rule of the day. Rule number 51.
Never call a fox a coyote.
Nope. Sometimes you're wrong.
Sometimes you're wrong.
There you go.
That's very self-aware for a Gibbs rule.
Gibbsian.
Sometimes you go to the basement and drink by yourself while you build a boat. Cody, where can I watch NCIS?
You can watch NCIS on Paramount Plus and CBS. Next week on Off Duty.
While investigating a naval stockyard for a container with illegal weapons, Tony and Ziva are ambushed and forced to take cover in a container where they subsequently become locked in together. Again, Gibbs, McGee, and Abby are forced into a race against time to find their location before Tony and Ziva end up dead. It's Season 3, Episode 12, Boxed In. Stay with us, folks. Foof.
One of my favorite episodes.
Boxed In?
Yeah. Dennis Smith.
Remember when you forgot to put your earplugs in?
Ooh. Oh, my God. We can talk about that. No, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Let's not give it away.
Okay, bye, you.
Bye. Hi, I'm Michael Weatherly.
And I'm Cody DePablo.
And this is Off Duty. I love it when we do that. When we do it together like that, it makes me so happy. When we both say it simultaneously. Well, today's episode is Season 3, Episode 12. Boxed In, baby. It is so good. That's right. It is a standout episode from Season 3. There's no question. We are both very fond of our guest today. We have a standout guest. And I would say he is an MVP of the show. He is maybe unsung in terms of you don't see him in front of the camera, but behind the camera, a director I've made, I don't know, like 100 episodes of television with, Dennis Smith.
We're really excited to have Dennis.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to talk to Dennis?
Well, I haven't seen him in a while, so it's going to be a 10.
It's a full 10 for me as well. Anyway, I want to give you a little background on who Dennis Smith is. He, besides being an amazing human, has directed a slew of NCIS episodes, a slew meaning over 100 of the franchise. He's directed JAG episodes, a ton of NCIS Los Angeles, not to mention Bull, the show that I did with him.
How many did he do there?
A lot. 25 or something. I don't know. He's been so integral to making NCIS what it is, and we are so excited to be talking about this wonderful episode, Boxed In, with him. But you have to understand, 1,000 episodes of NCIS, the franchise, have aired. He did 100 of them. That's 10%
of all of
the
the
whole
NCIS universe. That's a lot.
Okay. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Welcome to Off Duty, an NCIS rewatch podcast. Today on the show, Season 3, Episode 12, Boxed In. While investigating at a port, Tony and Ziva encounter unexpected criminal activity. They become trapped inside a shipping container. Gibbs and McGee, with the help of Ducky and Abby, find not only their teammates, but also the bad guys. I would like to give you a little context about when this episode aired. You know how we like to talk about the context of the air date? Yeah. Okay, for context.
Thank you.
This episode aired January 10th, 2006, which is also my oldest son's birthday.
Oh.
January 10th. He would have been turning 10. And I actually remember his birthday party that year because I sang and he got very embarrassed. I pulled out my guitar and sang a song. So what happened on that day, besides my son's birthday? Ellen Johnson Sirleaf inaugurated as president of Liberia, making her the first woman to be elected as a head of state in Africa. Very impressive. 30 Rock premiered its first episode. Tina Fey, hey.
So good.
Alec
Such
Baldwin.
A great show.
And here's the thing, and I this is super, super interesting. High School Musical premiered.
Oh, wow. And then we had Zac Efron on the show. Remember?
We had him. He was on, I think, before it aired, right?
It was about to air.
It was about to air.
It was a big topic.
Well, this is the day it aired, January 10th.
Wow.
How about that? On the Disney Channel, which we're not on.
No.
But that's fine. We don't have to be on.
We
don't have to be on every channel.
You can catch NCIS on Paramount Plus and CBS.
If you want to watch NCIS, all you really need is something with a screen, and it's probably on.
Anywhere in the world.
And now it's a podcast. All right. I'm going to give you the episode synopsis here. Okay. While searching a Senegalese ship that they believe is being used to smuggle small arms, TIVA, Tony and Ziva, are captured and locked in a container while the team tries to discover their whereabouts. It's a fantastic episode.
It's one of my favorite episodes, actually. And we had so much fun. And we will definitely get into it with Dennis.
With no further ado, let us bring Dennis Smith onto the show.
Dennis Smith.
These are my off-duty glasses. The show's called Off Duty.
I like that.
Welcome to Off Duty with that laugh. Come on now. That's a good way. That's a good way to welcome you all.
Especially this one, because I'm Mike Weatherly.
And I'm Cody DePablo.
And today our very special guest is Dennis Smith.
By the way, how many did you direct?
Oh, over 100 of all the NCISs, but probably about 65, 66 of what we refer to as the mothership.
Yes.
So we call this part the dissection. Or the dissection. What?
What?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're getting dissected, you've died. I don't know. I didn't come up with this part. But I like it. All right, let's punch in on this. So I'm going to go in our Wayback Machine. Do you remember, because you did some JAG, so you had worked with Don.
Right.
I remember your first episode in season 1. And I just remember that you
early season 1, or
that Don, you had to reshoot because the guys weren't doing push-ups.
They weren't doing the push-ups correctly.
And so Don had everybody come back in. He's like, that's not the way, you know. And if you actually watch guys in the military, they don't do their push-ups at the same time. But with this is TV, and Don one time made us reshoot a scene in the squad room because Gibbs hadn't locked his gun in the drawer or something. And he came in after we were in coverage, and he goes, "What are you doing? That's not it." So we had to go back and like reshoot the master. And so I just want to hear like your memories of first coming onto the show, and then because we're going to talk about Boxed In from season 3,
which is, by the way, one of our favorite episodes.
I wanted to just
mine too, for so many reasons.
I just wanted to go back for a second into your origins with NCIS. And
let me take you back to my first meeting, Don Belisario, which is I was being brought in to do an episode of JAG, and Don was always one of those guys to me. He was kind of a bigger than life character. He was the one sitting under the no smoking sign in his directing chair with a big cigar going. He just bucked all the rules. And I first met him. I went to his office with Mark Horowitz, and I was being introduced to Don, who again was, he was the Don, and walked into the office, and Don started asking me some questions, and I'd answer questions, and then Don would go back to his desk, and Mark Horowitz would look over at me and just go, just give me a little reassuring nod, like, you're doing fine. Just don't say too much. Let him do the talking. Just answer, like a lot of yeses and nos would be good. So I met Don, and then I did my first episode of NCIS, and Don felt like I got the show. I got the style of the show, and he told the producers, he says, book Dennis for as many episodes as he wants to do. And that was the train leaving the station, so to speak.
Yeah, I can fast forward to the light blue shirt that I had made for your 50th episode.
I still have mine too.
And that was quite a day when I discovered that this was going to be, I mean, but for the people at home, if you're acting on a show and you're in every day, it's 8 days, maybe 9, maybe
per
10
episode.
Per episode. To make one episode, 8 days. But then you start the next one. Not so if you're directing. You do 7 days of prep, 8 days of shooting, and then several days of editing.
Yeah, 4
And I
days.
feel like you were there on set always because you were always prepping for the next.
So it's like 20 days.
Right,
you know.
because at the end of the day, how many were you allowed to do? I mean, you took as many as you could get, but that meant that you were maybe working on 10, 9, 8. How many?
I was doing 6 to 8 episodes a season.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you went up and did Fringe in Vancouver, and you would do other things. And your background with David Kelly, he was really the guy, David Kelly, who, does all this stuff now, married to Michelle Pfeiffer, extraordinarily talented fella.
Beautiful woman.
But Picket Fences, where you met Lauren Holly.
Yes.
Storyboat.
Yes. I have lots of Lauren Holly stories.
So come, and before we get into Boxed In, because I do want to dissect Boxed In.
Yeah, me too.
But I want the people at home to really understand the origin story of Dennis Smith. You came into the business through being a cameraman, and if you watch a movie called The
Purple
Dale.
Rain.
No, The Dale. The Dale.
It's just cut.
Oh, the documentary, The Dale Car, yes.
You're in the documentary because you were the cameraman who you were involved, and was that Tucker Carlson's father who was investigating the story?
Yes, yeah, Dick Carlson.
Dick Carlson was Dennis.
How did you get started? Did you get started as a?
I was an apprentice news cameraman, which you were a film loader at night. You were an assistant cameraman during the day, going out with the news crews, helping them set up and break down, and pick up my dry cleaning. And my wife's coming into the airport, and can you go pick her up? You were sort of a gopher in the news department. And if you did that job for a couple of years, after 2 years, you could be eligible in the union to be hired as a news and documentary cameraman, which is what I did. And then I went through a period of about 6 years where I won a lot of awards, and I felt like I was like 27 years old, and I felt like I'd peaked and there was no other challenges for me there. Mm-hmm. So that's when I quit and started doing studio work, and went into the studios doing Steadicam, underwater work, aerial work to get around to meet DPs and directors that I wanted to work with. And that's when I met Michael Pressman, who moved me up from camera operator to DP on Picket Fences.
Right.
And then toward the 4th season of Picket Fences, Tom Skerritt and Kathy Baker came to me and they said, "We think you should be directing."
Wow.
And I said, "We think you should tell the producers."
Do you know Michael Pressman's father, David Pressman, is a director as well, was a director?
Yes,
David
huge
Pressman,
soap opera guy.
And he directed me on the soap opera. And David Pressman was so frustrated with my inability to memorize lines. He just found it inconceivable that I was continuing to work. And
you were that good.
I was that good. And, still am. I confound expectations. So I'm curious, that kind of prestige television, because that had Emmy nominations for the show, but also for you individually.
Yes.
And when you're working, because NCIS, God bless everyone there, but there's not an Emmy in sight. We're not exactly on magazine covers. There's no award shows. But when you're at the practice, when people get big on a show, and for some of those actors and actresses, it was a moment where they were like, when you're doing that kind of show, do you see the difference between that and something like NCIS, where we're up in Santa Clarita just chugging through our days, and it's like, does it qualitatively feel different, or is a show a show?
I think a show is a show, but working with David Kelly at that particular time, I mean, he was called one of the 5 most influential people in the history of television, along with like Edward R. Murrow. So it was a great time to be working there with him. And, I never quite understood NCIS, as popular as it was and still is worldwide, why, we were never recognized by the Emmys, by the Golden Globes, by the,
So this is a perfect transition point to talk about why it's so popular. And I think Boxed In has the ingredients, the real salient ingredients, like...
Let me rephrase the question. Why are you still on top of me?
If you're going to make a cake, you need the flour and the butter and the sugar. And this show has the flour and the butter and the sugar.
I watched it last night, and I thought I was so entertained.
And it is so layered in the Tony-Ziva relationship.
We need to get out of here, Tony.
Yeah, I heard that the first 50 times you said it. Hey, you're not claustrophobic.
From the moment they're locked inside this container, and Ziva wears all of her emotions like right out in the open on her shoulder, and Tony's the one that sort of keeps them contained. But it's he has the same concerns.
Yeah.
But he's great at covering.
Let me rephrase the question. Why are you still on top of me? So we have parental moments in that. For instance, Tony makes a reference to the piano lesson and his mother, and has a slip. He has a slip, and
it's a
Tony
really good slip.
asks, "What's your favorite color?" And when did you realize your father wasn't perfect, or whatever?
So give me something. Happiest moment. Most embarrassing moment. First time you realized Daddy wasn't perfect.
Oh, and she just walked away from that one.
But those pivots,
it was huge.
Each one of those additive things. But then you have all this badinage, as it's called, like all the sort of witty banter, it depends on your scale of wit. But I think some of it's really fun. And you get the movie references and the enthusiasm, and okay, Bugsy, let's all go, just the silliness, and then the physical flirtation and eye contact, physical contact, lying on top of, Tony, or he's holding you up while the thing is moving around.
And what people don't know is that, by the way, none of it was moving. We were playing like we had to move because
what we called the Star Trek.
Yeah,
everyone go left,
exactly.
Everyone go right,
yeah.
Everyone fall back.
It looks, actually, I was like, my God, I remember shooting that, and it looked okay.
It looked real.
And you were like, hit, boom, and we would have to do this fake fall and all that stuff.
Now, was it a bottle show?
Stationary.
Was it a bottle show?
Yeah, it was like 35 pages inside the container, and then a bunch of stuff happening on the outside.
And the container was.
Can you explain what a bottle show is?
A bottle show. Well, Dennis, you've done many bottle shows. Tell our viewers.
A bottle show is when you get in trouble during the season financially, and you need to do something on the cheap that has not a lot of sets, not a lot of locations, and so they call it a bottle show.
And by the way, we had a couple of really good bottle shows on NCIS, but this one, for me, was such an entertaining one. It was such a fun show.
And there's so many wonderful moments of like Michael said, of the banter, but also there were at least 3 great moments for both of you and both those characters that were so vulnerable, and moments where they expose themselves to each other. And these are 2 people, by the way, that I always knew in the back of my mind that in spite of the banner, in spite of the push, which Ziva did from the first moment she walked into the squad room and sat down across from Tony, there was like she was hitting the serves back.
Oh yeah, like she was suggestively slouching.
Yeah,
suggestively slouching.
But she was hitting them back. She was never a victim of Tony's banner. She was always the one who hit the ball back.
And always, I was amazed because I was watching it last night, and I was like, wow, it was overtly very forward. Like, she was very forward.
Yeah.
Like, the things she would say, like, were very sexual, very confident in her sexuality, very much out there, you know? Like, the things she would reveal, she was unafraid.
Well, you didn't seem to mind when we were undercover.
That might have something to do with the fact that you were naked.
Perhaps if it were warmer in here.
We were younger, you know what I mean? Well, I was much younger.
Yeah, it was your first half season too.
Sure, but it's like what a way to define a character. That kind of like confidence when it came to her sensuality, sexuality, and how she could
air
toy.
Conditioner.
You like the air conditioner. You've revealed a lot about yourself, Ziva. You know, or did you reveal about something and she just looks at you? Or the whole thing about the fantasy, it involves you and a sumo wrestler and you walking away. We don't want to do that.
Enough.
It's such a funny moment.
So did you? You were talking a little bit about the TIVA.
Of it all?
Yeah, hamster 5.
I'm trying to think. I didn't look at this. This is a factoid I should have looked up. Was this the first episode of that season 3 that you directed with me and Cody? No, the one with
no,
the one before.
I did Cody's very first episode.
You did?
Yes,
the slouchy.
That's
yes,
right. Suggestively slouchy.
Yeah, slouchy.
Yes. So, and by the way, it was brilliant. That whole exchange. I watched that again.
That makes sense.
Two last night because it was such, again, like a vulnerable moment for Tony admitting that he was talking to his dead partner.
Right.
When he's just met this, person who's come into the room and he has no idea who she is, but there's sort of this openness with her where he felt comfortable.
I'm Special Agent Tony DiNozzo. I wasn't playing charades. I was remembering my partner.
Naked?
No.
Did you see because you knew me, you'd done seasons 1 and 2. Did you see a new gear in what I was doing in a certain, because I'd built a lot of confidence over the first couple of years. I'm just wondering, because as a director, and I was saying this to Eric Christian Olsen, when I didn't hear cut, and then all of a sudden there would just, this head would poke out in the squad room door, and a little bit of a Dennis, and then I'd be like, all right. And it's like, going again, reset, back to 1, props.
You always had a way also of coming up to us actors and communicating what you wanted us to do. You lowered your voice and you had this really kind of like intimate, conversational, never like, I want you to, like there was nothing about it that was
She was a
pushy.
good agent.
She was a good agent. But you were just really... Anyway, it worked. It worked for a person like me. I was just like, I always felt like there was like this little secret we were sharing, and it was going to be our thing, and we were working on it together.
Yeah,
and so
right.
it was very effective. It was very effective, and it made you feel like there was somebody there who was collaborating with you, but who wanted you to do it, of course, better, but also like, let's play. There was a play thing that you always had that was like, let's play. Let's do this like this, and I just really enjoyed it.
So talk about when you get on set, what's the Dennis Smith, obviously
the Montessori approach.
The Montessori approach. As that developed, you developed a style. You watched other directors as an operator and as a DP. So but every director has their own style. I mean, Jimmy Whitmore Jr. has a very bombastic, he's what we call a monitor humper. He holds the monitor and he's watching the scene and he's inside.
So agitated.
And then, he killed your brother.
You could be in the middle of a very, 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 very vulnerable scene, and you could be in the middle of the scene, and all you hear from the back of a, video village is, no, I won't, I won't. But it's like, you just hear, you loved him. You loved him. And there's a part of you that goes, I could see how this works. Right now, I'm not sure it's helping.
And the thing is that Jim Whitmore is a fantastic actor, the son of a fantastic actor, and
also
Whitmore
like a
understands.
really successful director.
Yes.
And a terrific human.
But
you know what I mean?
every director, like Arvin Brown from the stage, from the theater, really thinks about staging and blocking and scene dynamics and what the values are. You have somebody like Tom Wright, who's an artist, who sees things pictorially and visually.
And oh my God, the greatest thing about him is watching how he draws out every scene and every shot and everything. It's like a cartoon, you know.
So how did you
cool.
find your Dennis Smith Montessori? We call it Montessori because it's well, you can explain.
I always tried to do as little as possible. As you two know, my hobby's flying. And the more sophisticated the plane, the less you have to do. And I feel it's the same way working with really talented actors is they know the characters, they know the story. In most cases, they've read the whole script. Sometimes it's only their scenes.
Oh yeah.
But I felt like what I'm doing is I'm planting seeds. And in planting those seeds, you're like being a good psychologist. You're not telling anybody what the issue is. You're helping them discover it. And when they discover it on camera, it's the most amazing thing there is. And that's what I try and do. I try and help people discover it. And I don't tell people what to do. I have an idea what the scene should be, but I'm always open to let it take me somewhere else if it feels authentic and feels real.
And there's something about the gift that you're giving a performer is authorship. You're giving, like you said, when they discover that for themselves. So then there's an autonomy and an ownership, because so much of acting, stand there, wear this, don't do that, lift up your chin, make sure don't touch your microphone.
Find the light.
I know.
So you live in this world where you're stripped of your autonomy, because every department, every truck that's parked in the alleyway is there because of you. The lights, the camera, the sound, the wardrobe, every single thing is there to capture you. And so you can become very self-conscious performers. And then there's a lot of performers that, in order to cover that self-consciousness or the magic trick, is they have all these techniques and devices and gimmicks that they come up with that makes them look natural. But there's no real discovery, and that you get that dead shallow shark eye performance. But what you're talking about is this huge gift. And I find it in blocking, because blocking is
You've
the
always
staging.
talked about that, and I've always been like, it's fascinating to me how you used to always say to me, Cody, I rehearse. I mean, I show up and I read the lines and all that stuff, but really I learn the script and I learn the text while I'm blocking.
Yes,
and I was like, wow, that's fascinating, because, and by the way, in the theater, I learned the same way. I just had the luxury of time. So what you did is you crunched it. Right?
Well,
you
Dennis
would come to set and you would come with your sides,
times,
and then you would rehearse a lot. And then during that rehearsal, which, by the way, a lot of people don't know, it's not a very long process. So kudos to you for being so fast. That's the thing that I was always amazed by.
So
I was like,
to me,
my God, I come from another world.
Memory is emotional.
Right.
And so people sometimes say, oh, that's incredible. You have this great memory. And it's not that I have a great memory. It's just that I'm very emotional. So I remember shit.
Really?
Don't make me cry. I will cry right now.
Right now. Your eyes are already very misty.
No, that's because I had too much beer last night. But I was so excited to see Dennis. I scarfed
Celebrate.
down. Yeah. But I really want to make a meal out of this, because boxed in, you're thinking, for instance, the scene with the dad.
You don't have to joke about it. It's all right to admit you're scared.
You've obviously never seen a Steve McQueen movie.
We're across from each other on this box. Then we go next to each other, side by side. Then she goes behind and comes around. Then DiNozzo spins around. So
it's a dance.
It's a dance, and you're breaking that up. And if you're just an actor hitting marks, and like, okay, you're going to be there, and the phone's going to ring, and then you go over here, and I want you to sit down, and you just feel like you're being told what to do. I never felt that.
And especially in this episode, I felt like what you were talking about, Dennis.
Staging was so important.
The staging was so important, and you really wanted to discover those moments, those character moments, you know, the moments when I really wanted to ask you about that moment with your mom, the piano thing, when you said, well, she was. What was that moment about? Because it jumped at me last night, and I was like, that's such a great character revealing moment. What was that moment about? It was about your mother playing piano?
I used to play piano.
But not anymore?
My mother forced me to take lessons from this woman who used to hit me with a ruler.
Yes, but she died when I was 8.
Right. So that's the thing.
Yeah, very good stuff in that episode. And so here's the thing that people don't realize.
There were so many of them too.
Yeah, but it's jam-packed. The writing is so good.
It's so rich.
The writing was really, really good. I remember. Oh my God, we had a field day doing that. Remember, we couldn't get through takes sometimes. Look at them all. And then for years, in fact, when I downloaded the episode last night, I immediately thought, do you know that
you
immediately went there and I was like, oh my God,
you can watch episodes of NCIS on Paramount Plus and CBS, new episodes on CBS. And
you don't want to miss them.
You don't want to miss them. And the past of NCIS, there's a present of NCIS, and there's a future of NCIS. It's very exciting.
And we're talking to one of the people that may be a part of that universe.
Whenever I was watching the show, I was sitting there watching it with my lady friend Tess, and she goes, those two should have had their own show. And I went, yeah.
Yeah. In a way, though, we were so enjoying ourselves so thoroughly. You can see in the episode, and when you have to pee at the end or maybe poop, I don't know.
Pee, definitely. It was pee.
It looked
that
like
was so hilarious.
I used to do that in college all the time, and my friends were like, oh, come on, do that again. How can you do that? Just lower one eye. And I was like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's so
hilarious.
Funny. Yeah. And it was, the kick in the...
Hey, what are you doing?
You two okay?
No.
Oh, that was great. Because it was so unexpected.
That actor in that episode is so good.
Yeah, Daniel.
I mean, he was fantastic in that episode because that could have been played so many ways, but he was so like, oh, I'm so open and I'm so good at my job and I'm so willing to help out NCIS. And Gibbs, what do you need? You never see it coming. And at the end when he's just like, come on, guys, and it's like, it really is like.
I think this is another thing about this episode and about the series in general. And maybe it's why it's not taken seriously or seen as a kind of, because it's very tightly scripted and it's incredibly complicated in terms of how it all unfolds and the mystery and all the layers of character revelation. And when Abby at the end hugs Ziva, that's like, oh, she approves.
Yeah,
we're getting that stamp.
Absolutely.
We're discovering all of these things, but the very center of it, of course, is Gibbs. And maybe people just they don't realize how good it is because it's like pistachios. I think somebody once said, you just can't stop eating them. Once you watch an episode of NCIS, you get to the end of it,
true, though.
You can go back and just start watching it again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, and maybe that it's not just evergreen in a FBI Law and Order kind of way, in the Dick Wolf kind of evergreen way, because there's not a lot of character revelation I don't want to dismiss that whole, but NCIS is lumped in with a genre of crime procedurals, and it ticks all those boxes, but it's like not really a crime procedural. It's a workplace comedy in parts, and it's a romantic thriller in parts, and it's like sometimes it's like a horror movie, like it's a mashup of these things.
A lot of things, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that anyone who's a fan of the show, I have people now who come up and say, "Oh my God, you're that guy from NCIS. I almost didn't recognize you because you got so old." But
did that happen last night?
But the comment is, "You were my COVID show," and these are young people. They're in their 20s,
yeah,
and they were like, "Well, I've watched everything now, so." Oh, this has 400 episodes. I'll watch that.
Rediscovered,
and they
like all the time by the next generation.
And that isn't just, it's the mistake that a lot of people make about NCIS too, which is like somebody's just chewing on a straw. Like, my favorite show is them NCIS is where to do, it's like as if somebody, that's who watches the show. And
it's so diverse.
It's so strange because I sit next to best-selling authors, PhDs, doctors, lawyers, and it's sometimes it's like, oh, I got cancer. I was going through chemotherapy, and that was like my show. Where does this come from?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's the nuclear family that really drove the show and the relationships. It just happened to be NCIS and Abby's lab and autopsy and all those things were just places, because what really drove it is the relationships. And I even saw, in that episode, like Gibbs got softer over the years. There was a more intense, driven Gibbs in that episode.
He was really driven, and he was very much,
never apologize. It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, it's a sign of weakness. That's like so crazy that somebody would say that. Even today, like I was just like, God, that's like a crazy thing to say.
Exactly. But then on the opposite end of that, out at the container yard, whenever he was trying to console McGee and let him know that, look, they're not dead, because if they were dead, I would know it. It was such a fatherly
yeah, it really was.
moment, and he even patted him on the shoulder like it's going to be okay. I mean, it was really moving.
Talk about exploring relationships, because you mentioned the bit with Abby in the end when she hugs Ziva, and Abby and Ziva had a lot of really great moments on that show, but that's one of the first moments.
I'm making him dinner tonight. What was that for? I'm glad you're not dead.
And last night it jumped at me that Abby came over and hugged Ziva, and something really funny happened to Ziva. Like, she almost gets uncomfortable.
Yes,
It's the first, with men, not uncomfortable at all.
Right.
Like, totally in her power, totally in her. But this Abby Shuto thing that comes at her, which is just like this heart chakra open, like no pretense, no nothing. It destabilizes her.
Yeah.
It kind of puts her in this awkward, like, I don't know what to do with myself, which is very funny, because with men, it's not like that at all. Like, she knows exactly how to handle men.
Sure.
But she does not know how to handle Abby. And it's a really funny bit. How they come together and how they're so different. How those emotions, how they process emotions is so different. And, I watched it happen last night, and I was like, usually most of the interactions I'm watching and tracking are the ones with Donoso, because they're the ones that I feel reveal the most about the character. It's the same thing with Mark. It's the same thing with Gibbs. But this particular moment, which was a small bit within the scope of the episode, was so revealing. It was so much fun to see that. And funny that you're surprised even today by the things that like another person can bring to the table, and how that energy will somehow spin your character in another direction and reveal something that we don't know about them.
And I think a real, and we're going to go behind the curtain for a second.
Yes.
And reveal something. Having done a lot of television now, myself, 500 episodes of whatever.
My Lord. What a beast.
And the soap opera that I did, I did like 500 episodes of that soap opera as well. But so it would be 1,000. When you work in this medium, when you make a movie, you go on location and you have a showmance maybe, which is what happens when you're on location and you have a romance as a thing.
No,
but
really?
It happens.
I
I married a co-star. So you have, you can have these on location. You can have things. But when you're living in Los Angeles and you have your home that you go to, your apartment or whatever, generally speaking, people have their lives, and then you come to the studio and you do your work, and then you go home to your life. And you're sort of not on location. But this is a weird thing about NCIS. We were kind of on location.
And we were all living together kind of on the same.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we were.
Holly and you and me and Lauren Holly would hang out. Like, and I don't know if people understand how strange this is, but we would hang out
I mean, after 12, 13, 14, 15,
what else
16
did we have
hours,
to say to each other?
I mean, really, you had nothing else to say, and it was like, oh, let's meet at the wine bar.
And we'd go to the wine bar, or Paulie would knock on the door with a 6-pack, and you'd
a
be
bunch
like,
of
oh,
doggies.
boy. And a bunch of doggies. And then we would go on Sundays and have lunch over at D-Dog's house, at Den Dog 50s.
And that's one thing, like, I have to say that for me, especially that first year, which was such a fantastic year on so many levels, but you provided a little bit of a home, like that kind of stability
That's
thing.
right.
And I think you knew that, and I think that's why you opened up your home, and in many ways you were such a special director, not only because you were there so much and because you were one of our directors, regular directors, but on a personal level, you were also a friend, and you were extending something that I think I personally am not going to talk for you. But you were extending something that I needed, which was a home.
Mm-hmm. But it comes up through the show, is what I really feel. Like you sense that the ease with which we all hang out with each other.
Yeah. Did it happen for you? Did it happen with other people too in other shows, or would you say this happened very organically here?
No. This was very organic, and the fact that we wanted to hang out with each other.
We met your
on
parents,
holidays,
your
because
kids,
I don't think people think that, okay, well, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you were in town, your family was out of the country, you were a single dad, and your family was on the East Coast,
right?
And it was so much fun to have you over at the house with my parents and my kids, because I was a single dad with 4 small kids who still talk about and love the two of you.
But that year was so filled with, and the Boxed In episode, we shot part of it down in Long Beach or San Pedro or wherever that.
The container yard.
I don't think we were there, because I think we were at the studio the entire time.
No, we were outside for the gun battle. And walking around.
We were. But then it was like Gibbs and McGee, they were sort of like there, and then we had a couple of days off, I remember.
And the warehouse at the end was also shot the night of, after we shot the stuff in the morning. And then, because I think if you watch a show like this and you break it down the way a first AD and a director will break it down, all the scenes in Abby's lab are shot in a row. All the scenes in Autopsy are shot in a row.
So it's a day in Autopsy, a day in,
or like you'll spend the morning in the squad room.
And then you go to MTAC.
And then you go to MTAC, which is actually just the next stage. It's not up the stairs. The doors are up the stairs, but those doors go nowhere. You actually have to go. And then Abby's lab is on the next stage over. And then the evidence garage is the stage after that. And I think that when we started watching the shows at lunch, it became very bonding because we would all sit together.
I mean, you were so geeky, and I mean this in the best of ways. At times during that third year, he would say, Cody, come over, let's watch the show together. And I was like, why would you do that? We just shot it. I was like, we know what. I was like, and he would say, no, you have to come and we'll watch it together. And Michael would be like literally the guy that would turn, we would set up, he would get like popcorn, he would open like a little bottle of wine, and it was like a ceremony, it was like this incredible little moment. And I remember sort of watching him watch the show and being like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I remember being sort of pleasantly surprised by being like, that was a fun show.
Yeah.
And Michael was like a candy store. He was like, that was great. He was like a true fan of the medium.
Yes. And what I learned how to do on NCIS, which I tell people it took me 13 years to figure out how to do the authentic point of view and essence of my energy going into the point of view of the character. But what I really learned technically was how to lean on the cut. And what that means
Explain that. I'm like, lean on the cut.
Do you want to take a stab at lean on the cut?
He just knew, he knew exactly when you were going to cut to him and when you were going to cut to someone else. And he would give you the head turn to them. He was
like an expert in the.
And it's like, in a scene, there are like many little things that are kind of like an act out.
Sure.
Where, you want to hit something a little harder, or you want to not hit it hard, and you want to leave them thinking with you. And he was always good about that. By the way, he has the best memory. He can go back and tell you moments and episodes and episode names and what happened and who the guest stars were.
By the way, you were one of the
shooting.
first directors who we just had
Voyeur's Web,
and we talked about you because
it was banned.
God.
Well, yes, it was. We talked about that too.
Not anymore. It's on Paramount Plus. You can get it.
You can get it.
Voyeur's Web.
But it was banned in some countries.
Sure. But that scene in which you turned the camera, how we started losing our, we started laughing so hard when we were interviewing the bad guy, who turns out to be the bad guy. But and you just played it, and then you just went like this.
Billy Webb got frustrated that we were laughing so hard, and it looked like we blew the scene. So he just rolled. He rolled his Steadicam,
and that's what you used.
Or maybe he wasn't frustrated. Maybe he was just having fun. But most people would cut around that.
No, you used it. You used the entire laugh and the camera going.
So another thing that I want to point out, and I said this a little bit once before, but it's really worth digging into and articulating. And we're talking about the technical aspects of making the television, leaning on the cut. But when you are editing, generally, if you're editing a TV show, it's a machine. You are cranking through these days. They get the dailies, you have the script, you're the editor, you have the script, and it says, Ziva comes in, says this line. So you start with you go through the dailies, but you're really just looking for the lines. And if somebody says the line wrong, you fast forward to the next take and you grab that line, and you're building the script from what's in the dailies. But I sensed on NCIS that the editors and the directors cut to what they shot. So instead of cutting to script, you cut to footage. You cut from the dailies. What happened in the scene might not be here. So you got to watch what happened in the world.
You have to watch every take, every angle, because I wasn't always concerned about getting everything I wanted in the head-on angle, because it could be the side angle that's coming around. It could be the one that's over the back. It could be the one where like, Rosemary's Baby, where you're sort of leaning around to, try and see their face and see their expression.
Right. Yeah. Do you have a favorite NCIS episode?
I have many favorites, and for different reasons. I like Boxed In a lot because there was so much going on, and there were so many layers, and you're in an enclosed space, so it's very challenging blocking-wise. I love the one where you were being held captive, and
Truth or Consequences.
Truth or Consequences
Season 7, episode 1
is on the top of my list.
Truth or Consequences is my favorite episode. Couldn't live without you, I guess.
So you will die with me.
And Don let us go.
Yep.
I mean, he let us, to his credit, he let us play. Mm-hmm. And he trusted us to do a lot of the stuff that we came up with that became a staple of the show.
You came to my trailer, and do you remember your request/speech?
Yeah, I said, Michael, take your time. You have a couple hours here before we start shooting, but we're going to start in your direction, and we're going to shoot all 10 pages of you first.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yep. So,
but I mean, in one take.
Yeah.
Like the whole 10. And you said, it's 360. The camera's going to go all the way around you, so there's nowhere to put your lines. Because I would hide little cheat cards. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember. And wait, didn't you call them origami?
Like I had origami.
Origami, like in your pocket, and when the camera would turn around, you'd grab it and you'd look at your lines, and then you'd put them away. But you had this remarkable ability to be able to do something like that and never skip a beat. Like you were just always present. You just needed as a reminder, and then you were like right on. It was like unlike anything I'd ever seen.
If I didn't know,
challenging day.
It was a little bit of a high wire anytime I had big speeches or big things like that. But my go-to in that one, if I was up on a line, I was under the truth serum. I knew that I was scared to death, but I also...
Are you saying you were using all the elements?
But I also knew that Gibbs was somewhere. That I knew I had the angel somewhere. So I had the confidence of somebody who's like, do whatever you want to me. It's not going to end well for you, but you do whatever you want. So at one point I said, he hit me and I said, can I get a glass of Chardonnay? Because that would go so well with the taste of blood I have in my mouth or whatever. And they actually cut that into the commercial, the ad lib about asking for a glass of Chardonnay. And I really felt that was when the show, the network knew what they had. And they were cutting trailers for the next week's episode, which I would geek out on as well because I would watch the cuts. And because in the beginning, I would be like, dude, these people don't even watch the show. They're cutting together these trailers for next week on Navy NCIS. The team encounters the crime is their battlefield. I'm like, this is not the show. You know, but I would do interviews sometimes when people would say, it must be so difficult. You seem to have a very exuberant energy and a sense of humor just to be in a crime procedural all the time. Do you get bored? And I'm like, yeah, you haven't seen the show. I've never been bored on that set. It's how I was able to do 13 years because I didn't get bored. Walking into that squad room, slinging my bag over to the desk, twirling around in the chair. And I was
going to McGee's desk and probably giving him a little help.
Giving him whatever it was.
It was one of my favorite things. Just, sometimes you walking into the squad room, sitting down, sort of looking around, who can I mess with? And just seeing
it was really interesting.
And seeing it all in the eyes, like you could see the little idea landing and
the little wheels spinning.
Cool. And then the get up.
The get up.
Get up.
Always.
The get up.
Yeah.
It was great.
I watched a huge amount of Cary Grant and a lot of the physicality that I was kind of mimicking. I'm a terrible mimic, so it's a great gift to be a terrible mimic because no one knows who you're imitating, So I would do the pratfalls and all that other stuff, but even the physicality of did that just zing me? Am I he's always a beat behind. DiNozzo's always just a little bit like, am I behind the only way I can get the edge here is to blow some shit up. I'm going to blow some stuff up. And the only one that sees it is Gibbs is just like, what that thing? God, stop it.
Go back to your room.
And that could have been Mark Harmon as well.
But it was always like, oh, go back to your room.
So when I became a lead on Bull and the titular lead in
you were the number one.
I was looking forward to being Bull on a show called Bull. I didn't ever understand the journey that I must have put Mark Harmon through until I saw what happens when you're number one. When you're number one, people don't tell you things because everyone's protecting you and hiding the truth from you. People are extremely disingenuous. So, not just with facts and truth, but also there's a lot of smoke getting blown and then also there's a target on your back because everyone is coming for you. And when I think back to how Harmon handled everybody on that set and handled me, I'm very impressed with.
Oh, I remember the phone calls.
You
would say things like,
he would let me go.
I should call Mark and just write him a long email or just say how much I've learned from him. And I think you appreciated the teacher so much.
But also he saw me go. He saw what I was doing and knew that there needed to be a leash on me, but he was going to give me some rope on that leash. But he wasn't going to let me off leash. But, and that was always the thing is that...
but you were always fighting to be off leash.
Well, like any good wild dog.
I get it. But that was the tension. And that was sort of the gift and the thing that made it work. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that also we had. There was also tension, And it's the thing that also made it work. It's the thing that made the relationships work.
Well, I always felt like he could be as wacky as he wanted to be and as goofy as he wanted to be, as long as the balance was he's a good agent, and that's why he's there. And there was you
were key in that because we've talked about that before.
Yeah, it would look like what's he doing? That looks so stupid what he's doing, and yet oh, he's figured out that there's a hidden room there. He's really good.
He is good. He is good. We'd do that sometimes in the squad room. You'd be in the middle of this, riff with McGee and like, and all of a sudden Gibbs would come in. He was like, and present the case or give me evidence or whatever it is that you guys have to do in the squad room, deliver the exposition. And it was just like a boom, like this. Of course, Sean had the bulk of it, which was massive. And awesome. He was so good at it, But you had the drastic changes because what you were doing all the time is that you were like, and then all of a sudden Gibbs would come in and it was a total 180. And then you had to become the really good agent that had to deliver all the information that Gibbs was asking for. Yeah. And that also was pretty fantastic thing to play.
Yeah, reversals are a big thing in creating good scene dynamics. And a reversal is just that. It is, you will be playing one mood or tone and then on a dime, just almost whiplash. And the show, actors do reversals, but the show itself editorially did reversals. You would cut from a very silly scene to this gore in the autopsy or to interrogation where Gibbs is, bringing the fly into the middle of his web and bringing his little billy web, squiggly wiggly web.
Squiggly wiggly
web.
And
so the last little thing that I was going to get into, I'm sure there's a couple more questions, but the technical part of Billy Webb, of William Webb, very interesting. His contribution to the dynamics of the show.
You've talked about William Webb, right?
Incredible Steadicam operator.
Yes.
Yeah, incredible.
And frustrating to some degree because in the way that I was irreverent, it might be a nice way of saying it, you might say, okay, so Billy, I want to set up, like just a static wide shot back at the squad room. It's night. I don't want the roundy round, which is where the Steadicam goes all the way around. And just one static wide, and then the beginning of this scene is just going to be coming off the elevator. We'll use that Steadicam to get us in. I'm not going to need a wide except for the first shot to set it up. And then the last shot's going to be a tableau reverse, looking back at Gibbs alone at his desk, whatever. And then you go to get yourself a cup of coffee, and you get a phone call, and then Suzanne McRobert, our amazing script supervisor, comes over, or maybe Rachel Good showing you some wardrobe, or maybe Billy Bake's got a question about something. And then you see Kratiger like dragging all these cables over, and you see them loading the B dolly into the thing, and you walk back in, and
what's happening here?
What's happening? And there's a huge scrim that they've put up on the thing, and they've changed all that, and they're removing the trans light behind the Navy Yard, and you're going, what is this? Like, well, when we come around with the camera, we're going to do a light switch and a fade, and we need to have a negative fill, and we've got a 40 by coming in, but they have to build it on stage A. And you're like, Billy, static, back of the room. And he's like, and I mean, it would, if
you would in many ways simplify things. You would go in there and you would always be very conscious of time too, which is is a very cool thing because we were having very long hours. And so then Dennis Smith, when we knew Dennis Smith was coming, we also knew that it was like we get to go home early. We get to have the most fun.
And they're going to be great episodes.
They're going to be great episodes. We're going to have a lot of fun, but he's going to get us home in a decent time. We're not going to go crazy. We're not going to do a 17-hour day.
And when
you were very much a believer of not going over the 12.
And when you saw that 10. There was something maybe I'd been a little irritating in the previous episode. Maybe we'd had a hard time with a director or just a lumpy script or something. When you would come in, I just remember that you would look at your watch and look at me and Cody, and we're maybe having a little bit of a day with each other. And you would say, last scene of the day is a oneer. Because everyone's looking at their watch and thinking, it's a 2-page scene.
And then Daddy would
that's
come in
going to take 2.5 hours to do 2 pages.
I did that a lot.
And you'd say...
You did it a lot.
And we're pre-lit. You'd say, so the minute we get Mark's coverage on this scene, we're going to go over to the elevator.
Rehearse it.
We're pre-lit. Kratz already set it up, and you're just going to bring... And then Billy would be like, I was thinking maybe we could start over by the most wanted wall.
Off the elevator and do a 360
my favorite thing is at that point, you would take absolute control of the room, and you would go, nope, oneer, and you would walk away. That's it.
And the only thing was, we would walk into the elevator, and then the camera pushes in, and it just stays on us in a 2-shot, and you hear the doors close, but you don't see them, right? And then we have the scene, and then we're blah, 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 blah for 2 pages, back and forth, very emotional, not looking at each other, just looking at the numbers and the thing.
Wait,
and then
you're talking
and
about
then
the
you
same
hear ding,
scene I'm thinking
and then
about.
the door, and then you hear the doors open, and then we both exit on the opposite. And I think did we do it twice?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think we did it that long, but you got to set, and then you had 2 actors who were very in their own world,
Loaded.
and very loaded with emotions. You were like, I don't think we're going to do this. I think we just need to rehearse it for placement, but you knew exactly how that was going to be shot. And then you looked at both of us, you didn't say much, and you said, we're just going to shoot it. We're just going to shoot it. And then the next thing you know, Michael and I were in an elevator scene, and we had this kind of explosive scene, and then you just let that camera.
It's a lot of trust in your actors,
a lot,
and also,
and not trying to manipulate, not trying to push, not trying to. You were like, you understood that you had these 2 people who were coming in with their own understanding of what the scene was. And Michael and I have always had our own process. We don't really discuss scenes before we shoot them.
Yeah.
We don't.
I love you, but I hate you, but I love you, but I hate you, but I love you.
And I hate you. We'd always, sing that song between takes. But so we respected that, and you were one of those directors who saw that, clocked it, and also respected it. And you just allowed us to do the thing that we did.
And that's that agility you were talking about, that flexibility to say, maybe you did want to take one of the walls off and go, French overs, or you wanted to, but you saw what it was, and you thought, if I poke and pull this scene apart and pull these 2 actors apart, it might suck.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's nice to see the 2 of you in there together, and there's so much more tension versus cutting around and cutting to close-ups in a scene like that, where you just sit there and you're just like glued to these 2 people with all these
and what's going on,
these
and
emotions and
like
stuff
this?
going on. It's like you're not going to turn off the TV, you're not going to go to the refrigerator and get something. You're like glued to your seat.
What about when you would finish a cut? You know what Dennis would do with the cut?
No.
Tell the people at home, Dennis. And this is very unusual, but it goes back to what I was saying. This show is unusual.
You're talking about the director's cut.
The director's cut. Yes. This show is unusual because most people, it's a job. You do your job, but you don't live above the candy store, and you certainly don't do what you would do with the director's cut.
First of all, I was very lucky that Don let a lot of my cuts go as I turned them in, but I would try and position my post-production so that I could send Don my cut on a Friday night, because I knew Friday night he's going to get the episode. He's sitting down with a cocktail, and then I would call his wife, Viv, and I would go, Viv, I got this episode coming your way. I'm sending my cut. I really think you and Don are going to really enjoy it. So I used Viv to
who's lovely, by the way,
who's fantastic, and she was a big fan, and I would call her and say, look, I'm really excited about this episode. Make sure you and Don watch it together and have a nice drink and enjoy it. So I would sort of set myself up for success.
Yes, that is knowing how to play. And you've worked with so many legends in the business, right? But Belisario is, and they're all unique. Yeah, you would say like David Kelly, and they're
big people. Yeah,
each one has their own. Glenn Gordon, Karen, right?
Yes.
These guys, masters in their own ways. What do you think Don's true, genius was? And because you can't make 4 giant hit shows without.
I think him knowing the family dynamics, like I said earlier, and the characters and how to create that family. I think he was genius. I also think he did something that no other writer that I know does. And he doesn't block out a show and use 4x5 cards in the scene, and then we'll do this scene, and then this becomes this because that. He starts writing, and he has an idea, and he writes to get himself to an endpoint. And he's not sure how he's getting there.
Paints himself into a corner.
And
then he has to go and take a shower and think about it. And
that he has to get out of.
Right.
And by the way, as a director, I understand that, because there have been a lot of times where I've blocked myself into scenes whenever I first started directing. I thought, oh my God, what have I done here? I've blocked myself into a scene where I'm going to have to cover them here and then cover them here in a reverse. And so I have learned over the years how to block myself out of trouble and how to avoid those situations, which is also part of the reason I rehearse so much. Mm-hmm. As Michael said earlier,
I love rehearsing. Yeah,
I'll rehearse 3, 4, 5 times, and everyone's always anxious to put down marks so they can start lighting and get shooting, and they think that's faster. But it actually slows you up, because the worst thing that can happen is you don't rehearse and don't get everyone's commitment, every actor's commitment, the cameraman's actor, like everyone's commitment. This is the scene. This is how we're going to shoot it. Everybody okay? And as soon as I know all the actors say, yeah, we're good. Now we've all committed to shooting it this way. We're not going to do take one and then someone goes, this isn't working for me. Why am I crossing over here at this moment? So that's the reason I do so many, rehearsals before I mark. And even after I mark, I'll do a couple more rehearsals and just walk around the room and just watch it. Watch it from this side of the room, watch it from that side of the room, watch it from over here, because then it'll become clear to you,
and you notice
where the camera should be.
Where the camera should be, but you also notice wherever you stand, the actors start playing towards you because you're the camera.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Actually, two. It's a two-parter. How many years have you been directing?
25 years.
Do you see yourself slowing down?
Yes. I love sleeping in. I like traveling and riding my motorcycles and flying my airplanes and
a lot of fun things.
Enjoying my grandkids. But my thing now is I'm going to work if it's something I really want to do. And if it's not something I really want to do, I don't need to work.
That's fantastic.
It's a great place to be.
All right, grab your coffee, your matcha, your tea, whatever it is you're drinking.
Matcha latte.
Whatever you're brewing.
Ooh.
This is a segment we're growing to love. And we're playing a brand new game we call What Would Abby Do? WWAD. Would. So let's rack our brains together and figure out what the beloved NCIS character Abby Shuto would do in these hypothetical situations. So, Dennis.
Yes.
Abby is stuck in a shipping container with a socially awkward Swedish man. How does Abby ease the tension to make their time in the container less unbearable?
Are you going to give us A, B, C, D?
No. Just to open.
Oh.
How does Abby get the Swedish man to calm down in the container? I want to hear it.
I'm glad you do, because I don't.
A calf pow.
A calf pow. Wow.
Maybe like a calf pow, I'm thinking.
But would she have a calf pow in the shipping container?
Maybe.
She always has one.
Yes, she does. What about the notion that she would tell a story from her childhood about when she and her dog Bubba were riding shotgun in the pickup truck? She's always telling those stories.
And she put him to sleep.
Okay, here's the next one. There's a runaway train barreling down the railway tracks. On the tracks, there are 5 people tied up and unable to move, with the train headed straight for them. Abby is standing some distance away, next to a lever. If she pulls this lever, the train will switch to a different set of tracks. However, she notices that there is one person on that side track. So she has 2 options, or she has options. Do nothing, in which case the train will kill 5 people on the main track. Or does she pull the lever, diverting the train, but her action will now kill this other person?
This is an impossible question.
In action, or if she does nothing, she witnesses the 5 people get killed. But if she activates something in the universe, only one person gets killed. What does Abby do?
I think she activates it and then tries to save the one person.
That's a really good answer. I think I'll join you. I'll join you there.
Somehow.
I think she closes her eyes really tight.
And goes, Gibbs.
No, that's what I think it is.
Like,
she grabs the lever.
Genie, like just and
then there's a 3.5-page flashback.
Yeah.
And then we never know.
Know it. Oh yeah, that would be good construction. Okay, Abby is in an incredibly expensive Michelin-starred restaurant, and she's
hard to believe.
And she's having soup, but there is like a bug with a hair in the soup. What would Abby do?
She would take the bug out, rescue it, rinse it off in water, blow dry it herself.
Bring it back to life.
And then, yes. And then
make sure that bug was okay.
That's it.
I think she would take that bug, put it in a little napkin, in a fragile little napkin, and then she would put it under a microscope and go over it like a scientist and find out more about that bug.
So what we know she wouldn't do is call over the server and say,
send it back.
There's a bug in my soup. Or march into the kitchen and say, what kind of restaurant is this?
Right. She wouldn't throw a fit.
She would not throw a fit.
Oh, a bug.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I think that we all had the same thought, which is that she would want to be kind.
Yes.
To
the
life.
Bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love Abby Shuto. Well, anyway, thank you for playing What Would Abby Do?
Thank you for coming.
Dennis Smith.
Of course.
Thank you for being with us on Off Duty.
Off Duty.
My great pleasure.
It was great having Dennis here. We're going to move on to what we like to do. The fan questions.
Ooh.
As we have discussed many times, fans come to NCIS. It is not one specific group of people. You might make that mistake if you've never watched an episode of NCIS and you worked, say, in media. You might presume something that would be false about our television viewers. They are wildly different and a very diverse group, and they all share one thing in common. They love their NCIS. Oh, yes, they do. They watch a lot of it. They eat them like jelly beans. Who would you rather be stuck in a container with from the cast? And you can't say each other. So the fan wants to know who would you rather be? Like, who else in the cast would you be stuck in a container with?
I think Mark.
You'd be stuck with Mark?
I think because the few times that I've had, well, not the few times, many a time, I've had great conversations with Mark. We can go back and, even though we don't think alike in a lot of things, there's a lot there that we can hold on to. And we share also a couple of values that are kind of neat, that kind of work ethic thing. And I think he's really, at times he's really hard on himself. I think I can be hard on myself too.
So you'd be able to share and kind of really deepen.
But the truth is, I could be stuck in a container with pretty much anyone in this cast and I would have a ball. I think I would have a lot of fun. I think if you were to ask me, who would I probably be surprised to be stuck in a container with? Probably Polly Pratt, because I think I would find out so much about her that would just blow my mind, about her upbringing, about her relationships, about, for example, her relationship with her mom, which I know is very sacred to her. And so I think it would be a really fun thing to do too.
I would choose to be stuck with David McCallum.
Of course.
Because, first of all, it would just be lovely to be with him again.
Yes.
But I also know that guy knows a lot about movies. He was in some amazing movies. And I could just...
had a lot of these conversations with him.
Geek out. I'd be stuck in a container. I'd drive him crazy. McCallum would have lost his mind to be stuck in a container with me because I would have just kept going. I would have been like, David, tell me about The Hell Drivers with Sean Connery. He was in a movie called Hell Drivers. Yeah. And by the way, this is not a Sean Connery movie that many people know. He's in Billy Budd, which is an incredible film, Terrence Stamp's film debut.
Oh, I do love him.
All right. Which age is better, 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s? Why?
I have an answer for that.
Oh, good.
I remember asking my Mom, which has been your favorite decade? And I was always amazed at her answer. She said, it just gets better. And I have to say that for me, there's been amazing times in time periods, but it just keeps getting better.
It's the growth.
Yes, but it's also...
the deepening.
But it's the example. My mom has been a real example of that. how every decade comes with its own set of challenges for obvious reasons, and with its own set of incredible surprises. And there's not a single person that I ask that is older that wants to go back to a certain time. Of course, for obvious reasons, you want to revisit maybe youth in your 20s because, oh my God, I'd love to be in that body again, or I'd love to see my face again without wrinkles or whatever, you know? But I don't think a lot of people would trade the person that they are with the experience and all that comes with age just to revisit that youth, you know? And I think that's wonderful. I think it's a gift that my mom has always said it just gets better, because I'm always thinking, oh, it's just going to get better. I kind of trust that that's going to be the case.
You know, your mom said this hilarious thing at lunch once when we were back in season 3.
Dress me slowly.
I'm in a hurry.
Yes.
And she said it was
Napoleon
speaking to his valet, saying, dress me slowly. I'm in a hurry. He was getting ready, and he was hurrying. He needed to slow his roll, as they say, as the kids say.
Yes.
And there's a great lesson in that when I find myself rushing through life. Dress me slowly.
You always say that. And I always think, oh God, my mom dropped a little.
And so I am going to agree with you that your mom is a wise guru guide.
Oh, she's going to love this. And she's going to say, oh, Michael really loves me.
It's true. And
then she's going to want to call you.
That's fine.
Talk to you about
That's fine. But she, and I would agree too, at my tender age of 55, that I am amused by the synchronicities in life. I can say this because I won't be in this hotel room when this finally airs. I'm in room 2221, and it made me smile because I grew up in a house that was 2221 Cross Highway. And so, and you know, at this age, I see meaning in coincidence. I see, you know, when it's raining, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. And when it's sunny, I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. When it snows, when it's cold, because we're here and then we're not. Got to enjoy things while we can. I just
getting teary-eyed again.
Of course.
So whittle it.
I'm going to give you this because this segment, every time we do it, it just brings a little ripple of joy into my pond. Gibbs Rule, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Gibbs Rule.
Which rule is this?
Number 3.
Ooh.
Never believe what you are told. Double check. Which is a spin on the Reagan thing about, you know, trust, but verify. A little softer,
today.
but Gibbs is like,
today.
Don't trust, double check. It's like, oh, can I trust a little? No, never apologize. It's a sign of weakness. But I'm sorry.
Double check that.
Oh, Gibbs rules. Remember, there was a shirt that was given out as a crew gift one year with how all the Gibbs rules on it. Oh my God!
I think you sent me a picture of Sean wearing it as he's holding one of his babies. And
that's right.
And you were like, "Look at the shirt," and I was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" It was the Gibbs rules.
Yeah,
crazy.
There's a lot of rules. All right, I'm handing you this cue card because this is another fun thing where next week on.
Yes.
So next week on Off Duty. A Navy officer is abducted, and the case becomes urgent when the team learns she's one of a handful of people who know the route of a train carrying nuclear fuel rods. What's that? Who's who? Come find out. It's season 3, episode 13, Deception. Foof.